Hi there! Today I watched a new horror film called Dangerous Animals, and now I want to tell you about it. Dangerous Animals follows Tucker, a serial killer obsessed with sharks. He kidnaps a woman called Zephyr and takes her out on his boat to feed her to them. The story was written by Nick Leppard and directed by Sean Byrne. It stars Hassie Harrison, Jai Courtney, and Josh Houston. As a film, Dangerous Animals is very straightforward. It starts by setting up the killer, showing us what he's all about and how he does his thing. Then we meet Zephyr, the protagonist of this story. She's an American surfer who is visiting Australia to surf the waves. After everything is set up, the film slams the two characters together and quickly jumps into the scenario. Zephyr is held captive on a boat, while Captain Tucker terrifies her and prepares to sacrifice her to the ocean. It's a tense story about a guy torturing this woman and trying to kill her, while she fights back with everything she's got. It takes place on a boat out on the ocean, and uses CGI sharks to help create the horror elements of the story. For music, they have a mix of old alt-rock songs and scored orchestrals. Baby Shark also makes a comedic appearance for a few moments early on. The cast is fairly small with only 3 main roles and a couple of supporting cast members. For leads, you'll have Bruce Tucker, played by Jai Courtney, Zephyr, played by Hassie Harrison, and Moses, played by Josh Houston. Tucker is a mad captain who enjoys watching people be ripped apart. He's charming when you first meet him, able to joke and show off a friendly demeanor. Then slowly, we see that peel away and a monster is left in its place. A vicious person with a short fuse that also loves the sound of his own voice. After Tucker is Zephyr, the American tourist. She's a beach bum who lives out of her van. She comes from a troubled past, but travels the world to try and escape it. Zephyr is a quick-thinking woman who never gives up hope, while actively defying her captor. Moses is a support character who steps up toward the end of the film. Initially just a simple love interest for Zephyr, he quickly becomes her only hope of survival when it becomes clear no one else is looking for her. Which brings me to my review. The story is well written. The cast does a decent job of things with Jai Courtney's performance standing tall. The visual journey is cleanly filmed with a few exciting kills. And the soundtrack does a good job hyping up the event. Starting with the story. It's straightforward and doesn't try anything too fancy. It relies on you enjoying the tension created by the situation and being terrified by the psychotic killer they put on display. It's a little bit fantastical in terms of how the sharks act, but other than that, it's easy to get into and enjoy. Most of the cast does a decent job of their roles, too. You have Jai Courtney acting up a storm as Captain Tucker, and a bunch of great victims for him to hurt. The supporting cast did an especially good job with their pain and fear reactions. They give him some incredible emotions to work with, and he ate them up like a true psycho. The standout performance for the film is definitely Jai Courtney. He plays a slick killer with a lot of screen presence and does a fantastic job of it. I was constantly mesmerized by his little shark lessons and pontifications. I loved the way he lured his victims in with a ton of personable behavior before snapping the jaws shut on them in the most brutally violent ways imaginable. Visually, the film isn't much to look at, but they got the story across clearly and managed to pull off some fairly impactful kills despite their low budget. It takes place on a single boat, so most of the screen time is just them being terrorized on different parts of the ship. For action, the film had shark attacks and a few small weapons kills. The shark attacks were okay, but relied heavily on careful editing and CGI to pull off, and didn't have much of an impact because of it. The real winners are the small arms kills. Captain Tucker isn't the most patient of killers and often switches tactics when the sharks aren't biting, which means he ends up relying on knives, spears, and other melee weapons to finish off some of his victims. These kills tend to have a ton of impact and were quite gut-wrenching to watch. Sound-wise, the film uses its tracks quite effectively. The rock songs add a ton of flavor to the film and help characterize Zephyr and Moses, while the scored orchestrals build out the horror sequences and add a ton of tension. They also add a bit of an epic feel to the action, making it feel far more dramatic than normal. I also really liked how they integrated the music into the story constantly. Like how Zephyr and Moses bonded over Creedon's Clearwater revival, and then she references that conversation later during a cheesy line moment. I just about died laughing at the absurdity, and yet it was somehow incredibly fitting. Which brings me to the negative part of my review. The story is a little dull in terms of excitement. There's one member of the cast who stands out for a bad reason, and the visual journey isn't quite enough to stand out. Starting with the story. It's solid for the first 2/3 of the film. You have a creepy atmosphere, a killer who's threatening, and a bunch of victims for him to kill. Unfortunately, he makes his way through them fairly quickly and is left with just Zephyr at like the 40-minute mark. It means they end up dragging things out for a long time and introducing a bunch of random events that seem overly contrived in order to keep the story going. They could have easily cut 20 minutes from the last act and not changed much in terms of what happened. Hassie Harrison is also not good in the lead role. She's very pretty and she's quite personable, but I never found her emotional responses believable, like when she's supposed to be terrified. She just sounds like a robot sputtering out her lines in a raspy pitch. It was especially bad when she was next to the other female victim and the other actress was knocking every line out of the park. Harrison just looked like a dead fish standing next to her. Visually, the film looks okay, but doesn't have enough big kills or anything different enough to truly stand out. It's just basic weapons kills and a few CGI shark attacks. There's only a total of 5 deaths or so, and they're spread throughout the film. If they wanted to stand out, they either needed to put more effort into the shark attacks or they needed to have a few more people die. Personally, I enjoyed the film, but I don't think it's anything special. It's an okay horror flick with a good villain and a predictable story. The kills are well done, but nothing that you'll remember in 2 weeks' time. As for a rating, I'd give this film a 6 out of 10. Remember, these are just my thoughts on the film. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Bye-bye!